Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams,
where we scream so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
And this week, we ruin Death's plan in Final Destination.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new episodes.
Final Destination is a 2000 American supernatural horror film directed by James Wong. The movie is about a teenager who cheats death after having a premonition of a catastrophic plane explosion. He and several of his classmates leave the plane before the explosion occurs, but death later takes the lives of those who are meant to die on the plane. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 40% with a critical consensus that states, despite a panel of X-Files alums at the helm and promising premise, flighty performances and poor execution keep Final Destination from ever taking off. It also has a 68% audience score.
After 3 minutes of ominous text and fan imagery, we learn that a class of high school students will be boarding Volare Airlines Flight 180 for their senior trip to Paris from JFK Airport. One student, Alex Browning, and his friend Todd Wagner are nervous about flying so much so that they decide to poop together prior to boarding to avoid any embarrassing odors in front of the rest of the class. I thought this was some kind of code for drugs, but nah, this is the ultimate friendship if you're willing to smell a friend's shit.
Before takeoff, Alex notices some weird anomalies on the plane and switches seats with two classmates. Upon takeoff, the plane experiences a mechanical failure causing the plane to explode and killing all on board.
That everyone died. The end.
Alex suddenly jerks awake minutes before takeoff, but when the events from his vision begin to occur in reality, he panics, causing a fight with his rival Carter Horton, who had it coming anyway. As a result, Alex, Carter, as well as Carter's girlfriend Terry Chaney, and teacher Valerie Luton are all removed from the plane, with students Todd departing to check on Alex, Billy Hitchcock arriving late so he's asked to leave, and Clear Rivers choosing to leave because she believes Alex. And also this movie needs to shoehorn in a love interest.
Aside from Clear, no one else believes Alex about his visions until they see the plane explode mid-air after takeoff. Literally no one seems grateful their lives were saved, but I guess it doesn't matter, whatever. Afterwards, the survivors are interrogated by FBI agents Wayne and Shrek, who are suspicious of Alex.
Tell me, or I'll... No, not the buttons! Not my gumdrop buttons!
39 days later, a memorial service is held for the victims, and Alex is publicly shunned for his vision. Again, they don't seem very grateful. That evening, mysterious water enters the bathroom of Todd Wagner, who's ABP, always be poopin', which causes an unusual chain reaction where Todd slips into his tub and is accidentally hanged by the shower line. Although his death is ruled a suicide, Alex and Clear sneak into the funeral home to examine Todd's corpse. Just a typical Tuesday.
The mortician, William Bloodworth, and obviously Death himself, reveals that the survivors have disrupted Death's design and is now reclaiming the lives of those spared from the explosion. While discussing their next move at a cafe, the remaining survivors have an unintentional heated reunion, where Terry is run over and killed by a speeding bus.
Take that fake apology and shove it right up your hairy...
After watching a news report on the cause of the explosion, Alex deduces that Death is taking the survivors in the order of their intended deaths on the plane, obtaining every sort of reading material on plane mechanics and crashes, practically building the case against him for the FBI himself. He figures out the next target, but is too late to save Mrs. Luton, whose computer shatters after some pesky alcohol drips into it. A shard of glass stabs her in the neck, and the computer bursts into flames, catching the house on fire from more alcohol spilled on the floor. It's all very dramatic.
The scene is a Walking Dare advertisement, as the oven explodes caused by alcohol again, forcing her to the ground. She's stabbed by a fallen kitchen knife when she reaches for a towel. Alex runs in to help, but only makes himself look extremely guilty to the FBI as he flees the scene. Clear meets Billy and Carter to drive Alex to her father's cabin so he can hide out.
When discussing who's next, Carter becomes paranoid that he's next and decides to take his life on his own terms by driving recklessly and stopping on the tracks of an oncoming train. After the others escape the car, Carter changes his mind, but his seatbelt jams. Instead of just leaving him where he belongs, Alex manages to pull him out the window just before the car is destroyed, but the shrapnel from the wreckage decapitates Billy. Alex, in a real brain blast moment, realizes that intervening in a death, it skips the intended target and moves to the next person in the sequence, which is now himself.
Alex spends the next day hiding out in Clear's family cabin, only to realize he changed seats with two classmates during his premonition, and Clear is actually next. He rushes to her house to save her while being pursued by the forgettable and quite frankly useless Wayne and Shrek, as they believe he is responsible for the survivor's death.
Why didn't you call me back? And I'd be like, why are you so obsessed with me?
Meanwhile, lightning strikes a power line outside Clear's house, causing rogue electric sparks everywhere. She's chased to her car when Alex finds her trapped and surrounded by loose electrical cables, which ignite a gasoline leak around her. He grabs the cable, shocking himself and allowing her to escape from the car just before it explodes. Alex's heart stops beating momentarily, but he is ultimately okay. I guess the FBI feel bad for him because there's no further updates on their investigation.
6 months later, Alex, Clear, and Carter travel to Paris to celebrate their survival. While discussing their ordeal, Alex reveals that death could still be after him because he didn't die in the explosion. I guess he really hadn't thought about it for 6 whole months, and now all of a sudden it's a problem.
Just as they start to panic, a bus crashes into a storefront, hurling a parking sign toward a neon sign, which descends towards Alex. Carter pushes Alex out of the way at the last second, but the sign swings back down towards Carter, assumingly killing him as we cut to black. He was a jerk anyway. Death had it right the first time.
All right, you ready to talk about our ratings?
Yeah.
What did you give it for plot?
I gave it a 2. I find the plot is interesting, but kind of along the line of any other slasher, there's always going to be another death. But I think what makes it fun is to see all the chain reactions leading up to a death and the theories people will put forth to save their own skin, no matter how ridiculous. It's best when it follows the straight slasher concept, but gets a little annoying when outside parties don't believe or police try to intervene because it doesn't go anywhere and just fills the runtime.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I also gave it a 2. I wrote, I find the plot to be unique and overall a great time, but at the end of the day, it's really just a sequence of deaths, making it a little shallow. I think the plot moves along at a good pace, but by the end, the characters are a paranoid mess and the bumbling idiot detectives just detract from the overall quality. I mean, I understand that there would be investigations and detectives, but they really don't add anything.
They don't matter. And like, I don't know. I feel like it's because we both have seen this series. Like, it just doesn't play into the part, you know? So might as well just pretend it didn't happen and just keep it going. Like, I know realistically it wouldn't happen, but none of this is realistic.
No.
Like, there are so many like crazy little details and all these chain reactions that it would be impossible for these deaths to be recreated.
Right. And it's weird because I feel like, not to talk about the other movies, because we're not covering the other movies, but this is the only one that every once in a while, like, you see a shimmer behind them of like death,
like
then,
the black shadow. Yeah.
And then the water retracts, which that, wait a minute, wait a damn minute.
Like, it's like a paranormal thing or something. Yeah.
Like, that don't make
They weren't sure what they were doing in the first one.
Yeah, so there's like little inconsistencies there throughout this movie that just kind of brings it down just a tad, but overall, I think, I mean, I love this movie, so
right.
I'm willing to look over some of the pitfalls.
Same here. What did you have for suspense?
So I gave it a 1. I wrote, the characters are going to die, so all suspense of are they going to make it kind of just goes out the window. I think the movie does a great job ramping up the kills and setting those scenes, especially with Valerie Luton. But they're not going to make it out alive, so you're just waiting for them to get the axe.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had as well. I said, obviously, yes, some suspense is taken away with the fact that they are all supposed to die, but I have to give it credit for the brutality of the deaths, and that's what always makes me squirm watching these. If it were a simple everyone dies peacefully situation, there would be no suspense at all. But these are the unluckiest people ever because not only did they miss out on some catastrophic accident that would have killed them, they have to watch all those that came before them die some elaborate gruesome death while wondering what death has in store for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, because going into the movie, I don't think you watch these movies for the suspense. And giving it a low rating isn't necessarily like a bad thing in this case. It's just,
you just know what's the deal.
they're gonna die. And like I mentioned, Valerie Luton, that was a very prolonged setup, right?
Yes.
And she went through it. Like, out of all the deaths, she had like the worst, I think. So like those individual moments could be suspenseful because you're like, okay, well, there's some like misdirect. Like, initially her mug cracks. So you're like, okay, how is that going to play into this kind of a thing? So I think in those individual moments, there's some suspense that's built. But overall, you're like, these people are going to die.
Right.
Like, that's why you watch these movies, right?
Yeah,
like, what terrible way can we just kill these poor people?
Right. Like, even like our final guy, final girl situation, you're like, but this is not going to be continued. Like, they'll get their axe in the next movie or whatever, So
yeah,
it's
much
inevitable.
To say about that too between movies, but I'll keep it just in case we cover the second one. Who knows?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, do you like Final Destination? Who doesn't? Who doesn't like Final Destination?
Right.
What did you give the movie for atmosphere?
I gave it a 1. I said not really atmospheric at all, aside from the initial plane scene being a little anxiety-inducing, because if someone screamed like that and got kicked off a flight, I'd probably be like, yeah, the vibes are off. Maybe we shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Death kills with the most mundane items just to prove that it's all around us.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
I gave it a 1 as well, and I said the only thing stopping me from giving this movie a 0 is the fact that flying can cause a lot of anxiety, so those beginning scenes add some scares. Otherwise, the suburban atmosphere doesn't add anything to the film. Which,
Right.
again, not a bad thing, because I think it actually helps that it's just, like, takes place in your everyday situations. So
Yeah.
while, like, the atmosphere on paper doesn't really add anything, but it kind of does in a way, because to your point, death's all around us in your
Yeah.
home, out on the street, that kind of a thing. So while, like, individually, it doesn't really, the atmosphere itself isn't scary, but it does kind of, in a way, add to the movie.
Right. And like I said before, like the scenarios are kind of crazy, but still mundane enough because, you know, like it's in someone's home, you know, like, or driving or something like that. All of these are possible scenarios where you could get into an accident or die or, yeah. So there is enough realism to keep it like there.
Yeah, it's like believable in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the individual kills, like, would it happen that way? No, I don't think that's physically possible. However, it looks like an accident, or, you know,
Right.
to the FBI, maybe Alex is doing it, but you wouldn't know. Probably,
Exactly.
like, I wouldn't, unless you really investigated, like, these series of events don't make sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, on the outside looking in, like obviously there's a reason the FBI are after him, but again, I think we should just remove them because like we know the setup of these movies.
Right. Just get rid of them. Pretend they're not there.
Yeah. What did you have for the villain danger aspect?
So I struggle with this, but I actually just gave it a 2. And I'll give you my reasoning.
Okay.
I said, while on paper, Death would be the ultimate villain, I couldn't give it a top score of 3 because it's not presented in a very scary way. Yes, the characters are in constant danger, however, their death seems like accidents. Additionally, the rules and timing of death leave some questions unanswered, so I'm more focused on the why than anything else. Ultimately, I would say this villain is more intriguing than scary.
That's fair.
So, like, yeah, they're dying, but it's not that scary, like, in terms of death itself.
He also takes vacations apparently because, you know, like that ending scene, that's 6 months later. He should have went after him right away. Like,
Right. Yeah, I kind of want to talk about that to you, but I want to hear what you have to say for your rating.
okay. I gave it a 3. I had to give Death a 3 because if you mess with its design, you're pretty much fucked, as it will always be coming for you. I think the scariest thing is its timing and creativity with how it kills. So if it were me in the scenario, I know I'd be a paranoid mess trying to anticipate every possibility. Like,
Yeah.
I
could
would be locked in a room, just be like with pads and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, that's basically what happens to Clear in this.
Yeah. Oh no.
But, you know, I could definitely see it being a 3. I initially had it as a 3, but I was like, death itself as maybe an entity, it's unclear, like, exactly what it is. So, yeah, they're dying in a horrific fashion, but, like, death as an entity isn't shown in a scary way, if that makes sense.
Fair, yeah. Like aside from like that dark shadow kind of thing, like we don't really have like a form for death. And like we made the joke that obviously the mortician is death, but like the characters don't think so. They're
Yeah,
just like, oh
right.
yeah, the mortician was like, don't mess with its design. I'm like, he was death. Like,
You think
why
so?
would he say see you later? Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually never thought that myself.
oh really?
Yeah,
I definitely got the creepy vibes. Maybe because this is the guy from Candyman, right? Like,
Yeah, Tony Todd.
yeah. So
Yeah, no, I never thought that he was dead. I just think he, like, knows more because he's a mortician.
I don't know. I thought he
Or
was
maybe.
being very creepy, and like the only reason he was letting them talk to them in this scenario was because, you know, he's death.
Yeah, it very well could be, and I could definitely see the argument for it. I've just never really thought that way.
Oh,
But that's an
okay.
interesting thesis, I guess.
Yeah.
Is Tony Todd death by Stephanie. Let's do a whole video essay.
Tony Todd was Candyman, so therefore he is death.
Death is just Candyman in this scenario.
Right, there you go.
Yeah. But, realistically, death would be like the ultimate villain, Like, there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way not to like confirm like what death looks like, because like if they do like the traditional like Grim Reaper kind of thing like that, people would be like, oh, that's hokey, or different things scare different people, so it can't have a face in this scenario.
Yeah, no, I think not having any kind of physical embodiment is the way to go, which is why I kind of wish they didn't have that weird shadow we talked about.
Yeah,
but no, I think it's great that there's no personification of him or anything like that. So
right.
It's just not as scary. I don't know if it would necessarily make it scarier. It's just not presented that way in my mind. So
okay. I don't know. I just had to give it the 3 with like the paranoia aspect of like, no matter what you do, like even if you save someone and just move the order, like it's still gonna come for you. You just got skipped. Like,
right. It's gonna come back around. Like
right.
Did you give the movie your extra special point?
I did. This is actually one of the horror movies I did see growing up, and I really enjoy it. I like the sequels. I think that they're goofy in a way, but also just interesting with how like creative the deaths are. So yeah, I definitely rewatch this every once in a while. I've only seen each of them maybe like once at this point, but yeah, they're always a fun one to rewatch. How about you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I give it my 1. I think the concept's really creative and fun. I was telling you before we were recording, I think I mentioned a couple times, I actually watch all the movies yearly, and I don't know how that started or when that started, but I just do it. So these are definitely comfort movies. I watched it to record this episode, but I could have just skipped it and still been able to talk about it just fine. But I definitely have to get the 1 because it's a very scary concept, because once you're in this situation, you're screwed. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna die.
There's no way out.
Right. Well, I mean, there technically is, but again, that's in the future.
Yeah, at least in this concept. Like, there's really no skipping it at this point.
No, you're done. You're done. So after tallying up the points, I gave it a 7 and you gave it a 9.
Sounds good.
Yeah, works for me. It's not like super scary. It's more of a fun movie.
Yeah, I would say that like if you're new to horror and stuff like that, that this isn't a bad one to start with. Just it's very like, yeah, obviously the deaths are gruesome and stuff like that, but it's not like your Saw or anything. It's not too bad, but it is that stereotypical slasher. So it's a nice intro to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, agreed. It's a little bloody, but nothing crazy. And I love like the whole teen drama aspect of it. Like it's a good starting point. So yeah, not super scary, but has some jumps and scares in there.
For sure.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful and we always appreciate it. If you are watching the YouTube version, you can like and comment on this video and let us know what you'd like us to cover next.
You can follow us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.